The time now for the news review. I'm joined by the Country Director, International Child Development Program, Joyce Lanyo. She is my guest this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're looking resplendent in your outfit, and though they can't see your sneakers, I love them.
Thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to be here this morning.
It's been a while. We talk about different matters. It's been a while, but I guess this is your introduction to our new studio, right?
Yeah.
Is this your first time here?
Yes, this is my
What do you make of it?
Oh, awesome. It looks
more space.
More space, and you have that free space to be able to express yourself the way you want. The lighting and everything explicit, and we are very, very happy that we see a lot of progress, and we align ourselves to this kind of progress, and then hope that we'll be quite frequent here in your studio.
Amen. We hope so too. Even before I proceed, I'd just like to talk about something that happened yesterday. So I was going through Jowlu. For those of you who are very familiar with Jowlu, Bayere Junction. And guess what? Right at the turn from Bedita towards that turn where you would go towards Bayere Junction, I saw a huge plume. And I said, this can't be someone burning anything. A house is on fire or something. Truly, when I got there, a house was on fire. I don't know what material was in there, but something was popping. And you see, Ghana for you see a fire. Don't always be in a hurry to go very close to the fire. You don't know whether there's a gas cylinder or something in there for an explosion, And some things started popping before people started running. But my main beef, and that place had a lot of wooden, whatever, and it's close to someone's house. So you can imagine the sort of dilemma they were in. I will both salute the fire service. I know their constraints, but also bash them on another end. And here's why. I called 191 for a long time because as a good Samaritan, or at least if my house were on fire and I wasn't there, I would hope that someone would call, right? So that the fire service would come. I called and this line was on. I mean, it was playing those things when you are on hold or something for minutes. So I resorted to calling the hotline, and I'm going to put it out. Ghana Fire Service, if I am wrong or something, 0302-666-576. Just so you know I'm not, up to any tricks. I called this number, called. In the meantime, the place was getting burnt. Then finally, I reached someone who called a certain fire officer, and then the person called a certain number we found online, and that was only when we got a response that, the fire service is actually coming. But imagine if they hadn't reached out earlier, and we were making the attempt. About 10 minutes, no response. That's time enough for someone's property to be burnt to ashes. So I think it doesn't have to happen to you before you realize how bad that situation is. Ghana Fire Service, I commend you because I went to get some medicine from a pharmacy in the area. By the time I returned, I realized that I wasn't seeing the plumes. True to my thoughts, I saw officers of the Ghana Fire Service. They had arrived because there's a place close by, Abelinkpe. They had arrived, the plumes were down, and I think they were trying to salvage what was left of the situation. But these hotlines, they are called hotlines for a reason. If we can't call them and get immediate action, it's a problem. This is fire we're talking about. So Ghana Fire Service, I commend you, but at the same time, my lines, I think they need work. I know some people prank you with calls and all of that, but when the real thing is happening and people try to reach you and they can't, then I don't know what purpose that serves. Anyway, Joyce, I just had to put that out because yesterday I was distraught. I was imagining if this were my house and I was calling and no one was answering. Can you imagine how you would feel?
Yeah, it's rather unfortunate. I mean, I don't know whether it was Friday or Saturday. One of the staff of the Ghana Fire Service was expressing their lack of certain basic tools to enhance their work.
Yes, we're fully aware.
Vehicles breaking down, water hydrants being taken over, and other things. But I believe these are some of the issues they need to address and get ready for whatever service the citizenry is requesting for. So if you bring your issues to bear in the public domain, what can we do to support you? The authorities are there to give you the necessary resources that will enhance your work. So we want to plead that it's just heartbreaking to see a property on fire and then our fire service officers are not there or they delay. And you see it burning to maybe ashes. So we want to plead. And more so with we, the spectators, usually when things happen of the sort, you don't know the combustible that are coming out. And there could be an explosion that will throw you as an ordinary spectator away and then maybe suffer some injuries. So we want to plead with spectators or bystanders to be very careful in terms of getting close to such fires so that everybody remains safe. That awareness creation about certain fires are simply not there. So people converge and they try to use their personal initiative to quench the fire. Meanwhile, you don't have what it takes. So this also goes to our public to be very careful where there is fire outbreak so that we take the necessary safety measures to protect ourselves from such tragedies.
Thank you, Joyce. And let's all be careful because they say, Sikaho, you don't want to, if your house goes up in flames, it's a big matter. But usually on the show, we would do this, give about a minute for our guests on the news review to share their thoughts on something they are passionate about, something that is happening. If you gave me the opportunity, I would talk about Doomsday all day. But what is burning on your chest that you'd like to walk us through right before we get into the papers?
Right. Thank you very much. And I'm here to talk about the Safe Start initiative for rural women, which ICDP, in partnership with Ultrasound LLC Florida, have put together to support our rural women in terms of their health care. So we are introducing the portable ultrasound machine that we will carry to the doorsteps of these women to do their test, which has become part of their antenatal checks, the first trimester of the month and then the last trimester. Usually women in our rural communities will have to travel a distance to the hospitals to get this test done. And it involves a lot. So sometimes they are not able to go and they leave it to that. And we all know the effects of such decisions on pregnancies. So we saw this gap and we decided to look for partners who would support us, not with a big ultrasound machine that you usually go and see at the hospitals or in the diagnostic sector, but a portable ultrasound machine that will help us go to the child welfare centers, the CHIPS compounds, and wherever the need is so that women, instead of traveling to the district hospitals, will have access to this portable ultrasound scan machine for their pregnancy-related diagnosis. So they will travel the distance of pregnancy in safety and in the hope that their babies will be delivered very, very strong.
Well, thank you very much for that initiative. Kudos to you and your team. But let's quickly get into the papers now, make tracks. I have the Daily Guide, which I'm going to be starting with, the Ghanaian Publisher, and the Daily Searchlight. What do you have?
I have the Finder, the new Finder, and then the Custodian.
All right. So I will start with the Daily Guide newspaper. Nana Bawumia storm Ejiso help make 2024 elections peaceful, Akufo Addo tells Yagbonwura. Then MMDC's hail education transformation. Asante Hene at 25. Ghana Post to unveil special stamp. And NPA boss re-elected African Refiners Distributors president. So here's where I'm starting from, page 3. And President Nana Addo Akufo Addo and Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia yesterday stormed Ejiso in the Ashanti region ahead of tomorrow's by-election. The two dignitaries addressed scores of NPP members and sympathizers separately at Onwe, Kwamu and Ejiso, where they urged the people to vote massively for the MPP's candidate, lawyer Kwabena Boateng. According to President Akufo Addo and Dr. Bawumia, the MPP candidate, who is an astute lawyer, is the perfect choice to continue with the good work of the late Ejiso MP, John Kuma. And Akufo Addo, the president, said a few things that I'd like to reiterate. He says, Owusu Aduomi has turned his back on the MPP. It's his right, but I'm surprised about his utterances. In 2008, MPP cabinet minister, he was the MPP cabinet minister and MP for Ejisu, and Aduomi defeated him. That was right for him to topple him. He was happy, right? But when Aduomi was also toppled, then he turned his back at the MPP, and he's making wild allegations. Is that right? He goes on and on. But here's something, Joyce, that I'd like to run by you. I have seen this tape played a few times in respect of Honorable Esiama, the Formena MP. Oh, Jack went independent, won, and they had to caucus with him. In fact, he became second deputy speaker. He is second deputy speaker. On the back of that, his vote has been crucial as far as the MPP in Parliament has been concerned, especially with the knife edge, parliamentary numbers we have. The second one, Jachikweson. Again, the president himself, together with others, were there bad-mouthing him to the extent that the proclamation was made that, do you want to vote for someone who is a candidate for jail? Jachikweson won. He's in Parliament. Again, we are here. I'm just saying, why can these bigwigs in the MPP not promote their candidate without necessarily trying to do this? Because the question is, what if Aduomi wins? Then will you try to bring him back into your fold? Will you try to let him caucus with you in Parliament? Will you want him to work with you? You see, I think the antagonism is unnecessary, but maybe I am being a student of politics and maybe not thinking realistic politics. I don't know what you think.
Thank you very much. I'm neither a student of politics, but I mean, it's bare. The facts are bare. That everybody has the right to stand for an election and then be voted for. And before that, there is a bit of campaign that you will have to do to draw the citizens' attention to why you should be voted for. And it's a universal thing that we engage in. And usually, because the NPP would like to break this 8, they are into doing all what they can to be able to come out as successful winners. But we have certain scenarios just right in our faces. The Formina case is a typical one where the gentleman stiffened his neck to go, on a low range. And finally, he won. When he got to Parliament, because of the tie in terms of the numbers, they needed him to be on their side and all that. It took a lot of negotiation. It took a lot of, underground work to get this gentleman. So with this particular one, if we are to think about lessons that we are learning from Formina, I mean, whatever it is, the gentleman should be given the free way to pose his candidature, convince the electorate for him to be voted for, rather than the whole structure of government descending.
President, vice president.
Yes.
I mean, all these bigwigs there. And people are asking, the NDC is not even contesting. Ejisu is practically a safe seat for the MPP. So why this? It must tell you that someone is quaking in his or her boots.
Well, so, and then certain statements that were made over there. I believe the president is our father, and where he's done his job. So the rest is for the citizenry of Ejisu to take that decision. But for the whole machinery to descend and certain statements being made to the extent that even the gentleman Aduomi was an NDC person. Well, it's politics, but I think it was just too much for Ejisu community to go through such. But we are all watching to see what will happen. If there's anything to go by, we have Formina case as a learning point. So we are only praying that the election goes on well. The EC will give off its best in terms of transparency, and everything will go the way it should go. And the winner is the winner. There is nothing we can do about this. So we are only praying that the election goes on successfully, and then the winner is declared so that we move on with our lives.
All right. MMDCE's hailed education transformation and the transformation of the educational sector with emphasis on equipping students with technological skills and making them comfortable in cultural and global communication has earned the plaudits of the metropolitan, municipal, and district chief executives. According to the MMDCs, the introduction of the 21st century education is giving students the skills they need to succeed in this new world and helping them grow the confidence to practice those skills. Now, speaking at a meeting with the Minister of Education, Dr. Yagbonwura, in Kumasi last Friday, the development agency expressed their solid belief that Ghana's education was on the path to improvement, citing the level of investment in the sector since 2017. Of course, there's that latest report that pegs our educational level at a certain standard. The Ministry of Education has written to express their thoughts on it. There's also that concern about schools being painted blue and white, and there also has been some clarity. When the minister spoke, it was a blank check, but now there's been clarity that, oh no, it's not that we're going to paint all schools, but any other schools coming up and a few other things, yes, blue and white, and even the uniform will change. Some have asked whether that is the most important thing at this point in time. Any reactions to that?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the education minister is doing extremely well in terms of bringing the educational system to a certain level where STEM has been the focus, and most of these kids are being empowered to go into the STEM subjects and then be champions of their own issues around robotics and all that. However, for the schools to have this change of uniform, or certain schools having this change of uniforms to portray what I don't exactly know, and then, give them what it takes. Meanwhile, there are other schools next door that are going to be closed down for them to access this new school. The school uniform, the blue and the white. I'm looking at the current color, we call it konkonte and whatever. Yes. It suits our children because of the nature of our terrain, the dust, and the issues around having a very clean. The white and the blue. Well, the white is an issue. I have an issue with the white, the color white, and maybe the blue that could portray a certain party to say that, okay, they are the champions of this new initiative. Meanwhile, we have schools that do not have the necessary infrastructure, that do not have the teachers that would teach, that children are even lying on the floor. There are schools that have been left out there without, putting it for the other candidates to join these schools. It's very, very sad. If we are to meet our educational outcomes and then report appropriately to the United Nations on our SDG 4 indicators, I'm afraid we are almost at the tip to give this account, and yet we are looking at other things that wouldn't support our outcomes in terms of giving a report on our stewardship on the SDG, and then looking at our strategic plans or programs. So I really appreciate what our minister is doing. He's putting another phase or layer into our education system. But we have certain activities or certain issues that are outstanding in our. You go to other areas and you will cry. I think Joy FM or Joy News has aired some of the issues up north where children are all over the place, lying down, putting their heads on stones and all that. So we should look at our priority in terms of what we want to achieve, rather than looking at school blocks that will be used, brand new school blocks, and decommissioning. That's my worry. Decommissioning the old ones that are there to be used for what purpose or for what reason? So we want to plead that we appreciate the very good efforts of our minister. In fact, he's put a certain layer of awareness on issues around STEM, which is worldwide. However, some of these issues that will not contribute to our educational outcome or give us the opportunity to account of our stewardship in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is just right in the corner, 2030. We are in 2024. We have 6 years to give this account. I will plead that we should look at the issues of teacher deployment, where certain schools do not have enough teachers, especially in the rural communities, the teaching and learning materials that they need to support the learning in the classroom, and some of the infrastructure that are lacking.
Right. Well, curious, some of these developments, but interesting thoughts you had to share. Let's quickly do a few more stories from here. There's also, on the international front, Pope visits prison for women in Venice on first trip in months. Pope Francis on Sunday visited a prison for women in Venice ahead of a mass in the watery city representing the 87-year-old pontiff's first trip outside Rome for 7 months. Daily Guide, as far as Catholics are concerned, when you say mass, it must be a capital M, else it is not mass. It means something different. But the real stories I want to look at, Bawumia hits road today. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who is also the presidential candidate of the ruling MPP in the December 2024 elections, will kickstart his campaign to become president today. The campaign, which begins in the eastern region, promises to be an issue-based one that will focus on cogent, practical, and tailor-made issues or ideas to deal with issues that are most dear to the Ghanaian people. I don't know whether he'll be sharing those thoughts as a driver's mate or as a would-be driver. I don't know which one. Then, help make 2024 elections peaceful, Akufo Addo tells Yagbonwura. And President Akufo Addo has called for the support of the overlord of the Gonja traditional area, Yagbonwura, Bikunuto Jewuswale I, to ensure that the upcoming 2024 general election ends peacefully and successfully. What I'll say in respect of that is that we must do everything possible to ensure that the peace we talk about is actualized in 2024. It's one thing talking. It's another thing putting in place the right mechanisms. For example, what Imani Africa's Bright Simmons, there have been talks about the BVDs and everything, and now some of more information we're getting and these being given out, if they've reached the end of their shelf lives, given out, to these third parties without any sureties about information being, taken care of, disposed of in the proper ways. We don't know. All those are things that are avoidable, things that ought to be avoided, because we are sitting on a knife edge. No one wants any problems. No one wants any issues with Ghana. So, I don't know. Peaceful elections, but at the same time, there are underlying current issues to look at.
I think issues around the BVDs has come up severally, to the extent that a number of some of these BVDs got missing, and we did not know where they went to. And finally, we have some of these BVDs ending up as scrap for whoever to collect. And please, the EC will have to, because this is a very sensitive election that we are entering. So whatever people will do or the agency will do to bring doubt to their services, it has to be avoided. If there should be a disposal of these BVDs, I believe there's a better way with security men around to make sure they are disposed of in a manner that will be clear to citizens that this is it. We have disposed of it in a security or operative environment, and everybody is sure that it has been. And whatever, even the ashes will have to be collected and put somewhere. But to leave it, for it to end up as scrap, and then people will get hold of it, and it puts the whole electioneering process into jeopardy. And so we want to plead that if such vital tools will have to be disposed of, there should be proper way documented that if BVDs get broken down and we have to dispose of them, these are the procedures under the eyes and watch of the various political parties, so that they are convinced within themselves that, this was the process that was used to dispose of these BVDs, rather than ending up on a refuse dump somewhere, and people will be thinking, so is that the best way? And so what happens if somebody gets the memory or the software? What is going to happen and all that? I mean, we are entering into a very crucial period of election, and so we should make sure that all the processes are very clear, transparent, under a certain standard, so that if you lose, you appreciate the fact that you lost, and it's clear, rather than be doing things that will discredit the processes of running a free and fair election.
I'll just wrap with this, just because you brought that up. When you look at my next paper, the Ghanaian Publisher, it says we didn't spend $150 million on BVDs. That's according to the EC, saying debunking reports that it had spent $150 million to acquire new biometric verification devices and biometric voters registration kits, that is the BVRs, in 2020. The Commission, in a statement signed by Mr. Fred Tete, Deputy Director, Research, Monitoring and Evaluation at the EC, said it spent $68,661,912 as total cost for 74,500 BVDs, then 8,500 BVRs, a new data center, and a data recovery center. So at least that is the other side of, that is not the same in respect of the other issue, but it's the other side of the coin. Let's check out what papers you have. Which one are you starting with?
Yeah, so I'll start with the New Finder.
Okay.
And it talks about the same Dr. Bawumia officially kick-starting his campaign today. And then we have the MPA boss retained as the ALDA president. And yeah, those are the major headlines. Ghana Post to unveil Asante Hene commemorative stamp. And then for the custodian, we have Ghanaians praise Bawumia for religious harmony. I mean, he visited the Pope, I think last week, and so the paper is trying to portray this religious tolerance in terms of our vice president, who is a Muslim, visiting the Pope, and it's something that I think is commendable. Yeah. And yeah, and the same Bawumia praise, Ghanaians praise Bawumia for religious harmony. So MPP whose voters in Ajiso for Kwabena Boateng. That's also something I think we spoke briefly about. And yeah, let's move to the next page. 10. Well, that's not a major news highlight that we want to go into. Zoom Lion acts on climate change and worker safety. And yeah.
So I also see the Bawumia campaign starting.
Yeah, I think it's taking
Let me ask you though, how do you feel about, some have said, I'm not necessarily here or there, but the vice president, who is flag bearer of the MPP, still doesn't have a running mate. April is practically ending. How many months left? You say you are not a student of politics like I am, and you are not maybe embedded in, the political processes. But what do you think about that? Some have thrown shots. Like I said, I'm neither here nor there. But what is your positioning on that?
I think where we are, and then looking at the time frame to the general election in December, it's time for Dr. Bawumia to come out with his running mate and then get the whole process kick-started. Because he cannot do this alone. People say, oh, he will be the president, so he will carry all the decisions and the policies for Ghanaians to work with. But you need a vice president to support the work that we are going to do. And as at now, April, and very soon we'll hit December, and we don't have his running mate. It's a bit of an issue.
I don't think that will happen, though. I'm sure by May, thereabouts, there should be someone who would be put forth. What it makes, though, is it gives you food for thought about whether, this is a party that has touted we have the men, and by extension, the women. And the question is, and I've heard some women groups lobbying now that get us a woman as well as running mate and all of that. But then with the MPP's governance and how some of the people who have come to the fore cry, you realize that if they were to handpick some of these people, there would be a whole lot to talk about when it comes to these people. I think that is a difficulty for the party.
Yes, I agree with you. They have the men, like they say, or the women, but it's come to the crunch where there is the Muslim divide, then the Ashanti caucus also pushing for their own, coming from Kumasi to be the vice president, and other interest groups. They are in a dilemma, if you ask me, because it's been quite a time now since Dr. Bawumia was elected as the running president.
Running mate. Okay, so he's actually the flag bearer.
Yeah, the flag bearer.
And he's looking for his running mate.
Yeah, so it's it's worrying. But we pray that they bring out the name soon, and then we all rally around and see how best we can support the process to make it much more transparent. That's all we in the civil society we're looking for. Right. And then we'll continue with our development agenda, and things that have not been well considered in this last regime will be captured very well so that we make process in our development process. But there is one thing that talks about Akufo Addo Commission's 15 MW solar power that I think it all boils back to the issue around Dumso. My brother, we are in crisis with this Dumso. People from various quarters have spoken about a timetable so that we can plan whatever we are doing. For example, where I came from this morning, we had about 3 separate doom, and doom-so, 3 times, not considering the effect on our gadgets and all that. So I want to plead that if we have the solar system also in place to support whatever the power producers are doing, we will be far, far better. And I'm looking at this solar system with a bit of subsidy because we have the sun, so that we can all tap in, and when there is doom, we have our personal saw, and then we put it on, and life becomes comfortable. Right. Otherwise, it's a challenge for all of us as we sit here and then we speak.
Well, Joyce, we do have to go now. I'll just leave you with some thoughts on this, and you can share your thoughts. The Daily Searchlight published full KPMG report. NDC Minority says so. The media has asked for it. Civil society has asked for it. There's also veteran broadcaster Joe Latte passes on, aged 96. May his soul rest in perfect peace. He's done his bit. He's done so much for Ghana. I remember the last time, I think that last interview with Muftau Nabila Abdullah, and here we are at 96, the ripe old age of 96, he's gone. But on that KPMG bit, Bright Simmons has also been saying SML deal was simply an upgrade of the Ejapa royalties deal. We don't have time to get into it, but in about 1 minute maximum. What's your take on this? Then we have
my take as a public interest person is for them to publish their reports so that we know exactly what the report entails, and if so much profit has been made, good. If there were also gaps, we identify the gaps, and then we try to work on it, ameliorate, and get a good deal for Ghanaians, rather than saying this and that, yet we do not have the report on our hands to also peruse it and come out with what we think could have been done better.
All right. Thank you so much, Joyce Lanyo, for joining the conversation. I just got this one coming through. Happy birthday to Jaden Enumonyam Otutu Owusu Odame. So, Jaden, may you be the head and the first among your peers in Jesus' name. May you be exceptionally outstanding and the brightest among your contemporaries in Jesus' name. Above all, may you be a joy to behold unto your family and generation in Jesus' name. Outshine and glow, son. Cheers. And that is a message coming through. So, Jaden, happy birthday to you. As we go veer into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us bring you this segment. And they're offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Reach out to them at any of their branches, Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma, here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaji State, Tema Community 22 actually. Then there's also Techiman Hansua and Esiama Enzema. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is up next Tuesday.